Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. In this week's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about improvised tourniquets and why you should avoid using one if at all possible, and what is a better option for controlling bleeding when you don't have a commercial grade tourniquet ready and at hand. Stick around, we'll talk about that next. Now, I've got three very good reasons why you should try to avoid improvised tourniquets if you can get away with it. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need to know how to improvise a tourniquet because you just have too many casualties, or the casualty that you're working on is so hurt that you run out of medical equipment to take care of them. But in this video, I wanted to talk about what some of the limitations of an improvised tourniquet is and why you should avoid using it if at all possible. Reason number one is it takes too long. If you can bleed out from a femoral artery in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, then you don't have a whole lot of time. Controlling that bleeding is the most important thing that you can do to keep your casualty alive. And while you're running around trying to hunt up all the materials that you need to make a quality improvised tourniquet, your casualty is bleeding out. So your best bet would be to hold direct pressure on that wound so that EMS or a police officer can get to you with a quality CAT tourniquet and they can save the casualty's life. If you had a commercial grade quality tourniquet at the ready, all you do is slip it on, tighten it down, and you're good to go, and you're moving on to the next problem. But improvising a tourniquet can take a long time. You might not even find all the materials that you need to make a good quality CAT tourniquet, and so all that time you spent hunting those things up, time lost. And we don't have a whole lot of time in the bank for us to be working around like this. And it might be lost to the point where your casualty never recovers from their injuries. So we don't want to be trying to hunt up the materials to make an improvised tourniquet if we can at all help it. Now, if you have somebody on standby who can apply direct pressure to that wound while you walk around and find all the things that you need to make an improvised tourniquet, then that might be an acceptable reason for you to go do that. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of that bleeding as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And the most efficient way that you can do that is with direct pressure. And I'll talk a little bit about that next. Reason number two why improvised tourniquets don't work very well is that they're not easy to construct. You have to train at it. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it for it to be effective. And you also have to know how to improvise that tourniquet correctly. You can't just grab something, you can't just grab a rope, tie it around the limb and crank it on and call that a tourniquet. It's probably not going to be doing any good. You need some leverage, you need some mechanical advantage to tighten that down, and you won't get that unless you understand how to make a good quality improvised tourniquet. And most people don't know how to do that. Now, in all the documentation that I've read about the Boston bombings, there were quite a few number of tourniquets that were applied, and they were all improvised and none of them worked. Now, a good reason why that might be the case is because the people that were applying those tourniquets did not understand how to properly construct one. There's a little bit of knowledge that goes into making a good quality improvised tourniquet, and if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to be doing your casualty any good whatsoever. Now, reason number three is that improvised tourniquets are not trustworthy. Part of the reason why CAT tourniquets and SOF-T wides are so widely respected is because they've been used in so many different circumstances and have been proven to save lives. Whereas improvised tourniquets are made of things that you found lying around, things that are not designed to be used as a windlass or as a tourniquet. And there's a lot of pressures that go into those materials. So if you don't have materials that can withstand those pressures, there's a good chance you can break the windlass, rip the material that you're using. Whatever the case, there's a good chance that your tourniquet will fail because the materials that you're using aren't designed for that. Now, I've given you three very good reasons why improvised tourniquets are a pretty bad idea. So let me go over a little bit about what you should do instead if you're all by yourself and you don't have any quality medical gear on you. And that is direct pressure. That's going to be your best bet and should be your go-to for almost all circumstances, whether you have good quality gear or not. Direct pressure works and it will save lives if you don't have a tourniquet on hand. Now, like I already said, you don't want to be letting up that direct pressure to go walk around and find all of the materials that you need for an improvised tourniquet, because the whole time your casualty is bleeding out. So you want to stay with that casualty, hold direct pressure on that wound until EMS or law enforcement can get to you with a good CAT tourniquet and keep that casualty alive. When in doubt, direct pressure. If you have a friend to help out, have them apply direct pressure while you try to make a good improvised tourniquet. All right, so direct pressure, it works pretty good. But what if you absolutely, positively need to control bleeding with the tourniquet? You have too many casualties, whatever the case is, you run out of all of your medical gear and you are down to just improvising tourniquet after tourniquet after tourniquet. How do you do that? Well, stick around for video number 2 of this little series, and I'll discuss a little bit about how to improvise a good quality improvised tourniquet. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for hanging out and listening a little bit about improvised tourniquets and why they might not be the best bet for you. They take too long. They're not easy to make, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And they aren't very trustworthy. There's a good chance they're going to fail on you, or they come unraveled, or whatever the case is. They are not as secure as a good quality cat or SOF-T wide. So you have to be doubly sure that you're doing it well and that you're constantly checking them to make sure that they're doing what you want them to do, which is control that bleeding. What is your best option? Direct pressure. When in doubt, go straight to direct pressure, heel of your hand into the wound, put your weight into it, and try to keep as much blood in that casualty as you can until someone can get to you with good quality medical gear. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe button if you learned anything today. It's a free way to support the channel. And don't forget to head over to mountainmanmedical.com and pick yourself up a Yellowstone trauma kit with a commercial quality cat tourniquet and be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you. I'll catch you guys in the next one.